Hello, everybody. This is Mike here again. I'm going to do a kind of a update on some previous robot newses. Kind of get you up to date on what I think is kind of interesting stuff going on in the news. Uh, I have kind of two topics I'm going to talk about, but I think they're connected. So as we go on, you'll see how I think they're connected. If they're not, if you don't think they're connected, but I think they are. So you got Boston Dynamics and Disney. So I've been doing a lot of research and reading and following both some of the interesting things that's going on with Boston Dynamics and Disney. So like I said, I'm going to share those and see kind of how I think they're sort of connected. Uh, and of course, when I'm recording this, Boston Dynamics is in the news. So I figured I would just kind of do an update to previous robot news I did, which is with Hyundai not buying, but Hyundai getting controlling interest from SoftBank, Boston Dynamics. So if you haven't been up with the latest news, um, Hyundai bought 80% of Boston Dynamics from SoftBank. I think the valuation of Boston Dynamics is $1.1 billion, and so that's where the sell the not sell price or the controlling interest price or whatever was like a little over $900 million. Um, I don't want to speak ill will of Boston Dynamics. I'm not sure. I'm not privy to. I'm not an accountant, and I don't claim to be an accountant, but I'm not sure where Boston Dynamics value is $1.1 billion valuation. I mean, that could be future uh, revenue, but I mean, I heard Boston Dynamics doesn't really make a lot of money, so I'm not sure where the $1.1 billion evaluation comes in. But like I said, I am not an accountant, and I'm sure that the Hyundai and SoftBank and have really good financial accountants. They could just go through everything, itemize everything, and figure out uh, valuations and so on. But that's not here or there. Um, so so let's jump into the sale of Boston Dynamics. Let me share my screen, make sure I'm covering everything. Uh, okay, so at the time I'm recording this video, Boston Dynamics is in the news everywhere, social media. Almost everybody in the tech field, robotics field, is talking about their new video. Interesting enough, there has been a pause in their videos for almost 6 months, and it's probably because of the sale or the pending sale between SoftBank to Hyundai. Sort of makes sense. So they created a. I can't play all the video. I don't want to get a copyright, you know, ding from YouTube. But I'm sure if you're doing anything in the field of robotics or you're tech or social media person, you've probably seen this video. This is the Boston Dynamics humanoid robot. This, like I said, Boston Dynamics is they're really good at making these videos. This robot, the humanoid robot, is uh, probably is the state of the art of humanoid robots right now, unless there's some secret projects going on in other companies. Um, so it's very agile, very effective. Um, this is kind of showcasing their three major products, if you could call them that. The humanoid robot Spot, which is probably has the greatest potential to sell to customers. And this is interesting enough. It's got Spot's arm arm attachment on it. Cool video. This is their other stacking inventory robot. This robot here, the stacking inventory robot, may be why Hyundai, one of the reasons why Hyundai bought them. This is that technology they're developing. So there's their 3 major robots right now. Like I said, very cool video. Spot. I don't want to get a. He's seen this more than enough. So interesting enough, when I did my last video about Hyundai buying Boston Dynamics, I did not know this. Hyundai actually has a service robot that they're selling now. Inventory robots. I mainly thought they did robotic arms, but Hyundai actually has a service robot that they have developed. And this is designed for hotels. I think this is the primary use for this, would be as like a concierge for a hotel room catering service. You would order in your room, and then the robot would drive. You can see real fast. It would then drive from the desk or wherever it was. You can use the elevators, which is pretty cool. It has decent clearance and so on. So the reason why I mentioned this robot is because Hyundai is actually doing a lot more in robotics than I originally thought or had seen. So I've been doing research on many different articles about the cell. So this is just basically one of the many I've read. 80% controlling interest Hyundai now has. Boston Dynamics is being valuation at 1.1 billion. SoftBank still has a 20% share. I mean, this is an interesting sell by SoftBank. Could have been caused by what 2020 is, the financial disaster that 2020 has been to everybody. And it talks about spots. So Hyundai seems like it's really jumping into the deep end as far as robotics goes. It really wants to start developing robotics. Once they start, they got the factory robots, the armed robots, the service robots, and now they want to use the knowledge, skills, and expertise of Boston Dynamics to develop more robots and more varieties of robots. So the interesting thing is that another thing that Hyundai had been working on, they have exoskeletons, wearable tech that let the seat, and then they got these exoskeletons that help people walk. This is really cool tech. I think this is a really, especially for people that have issues for whatever reason with not be able to walk on their own. They can have these exoskeletons that allow them to improve their muscle, their strength and ability to walk, and then these things will just get better and better and help the mobility of seniors and other people who've had issues walking. But Hyundai has developed this, has been working on this exoskeleton. And then let's see, what does this article talk about? So some of the products that Hyundai has, like I said, they've got manufacturing robots, armed robots, so on, controllers. And now they've acquired Boston Dynamics and their robot line to promote, use, and sell and develop. Oh, good. Now my internet has decided to go really slow right in the middle of me talking. So yeah, there's many articles I've checked out and read in the last couple of weeks since I did my video on this, the controlling interest, Hyundai. So yeah, Hyundai's been working on warehouse robots, hospital robots, like I showed you that service robot, those areas that they work on. Spot robot, which is interesting. So they kind of categorize Spot as a service robot now. And of course, they've got their warehouse robot, and so they're interested in Boston Dynamics warehouse robot prototype that they built, a logistics robot that they built. And so on. So logistics, hospitals, hotels, and then combining that with their AI, big data, and technologies integration they're looking at for cars and robots into the future, which I think everybody's doing, which leads to the second topic you'll see here as I transition from Hyundai to Disney. But everybody's starting to work on this development of cloud AI, big data, using that and integrating that with service robots. Not really AMRs. AMRs are pretty stupid. It's more the service robot needs the AI, artificial intelligence. Yeah, more of the same. Yes, DARPA started out Boston Dynamics, started out in 92. Interesting enough, they didn't get into robotics until a little later on. Boston Dynamics was more of a software company, and when it started in 1992, until I think it was 2012, 2013, 2015. No, I'm sorry. 2005. Maybe one of these articles say, but they started development of the robots. Big Dog was their first venture into robotics, and that was sponsored by or funded by DARPA. I think that was the early 2000s for that, 2004, 2005. If I'm misquoting stuff or saying something wrong, just leave it in the comments. We can discuss it. I'd be more than happy to be corrected if I'm off a little bit. Just more of the talking about 300-person company. Interesting enough, within a year, they haven't been owned by SoftBank for long, but they've tripled in size. And that's during a pandemic. So there is some development research going on. Spot is their big hope for revenue generation. So on. So I really think right now Hyundai is really interested in getting heavily involved in robotics. And I think buying of Boston Dynamics is probably a good move on their part. Because usually what you do, you're buying the data, the information, the development that they have. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on in Boston Dynamics that Hyundai now has available to them, and they can use that to further develop. And instead of be more agile in the sense that they're not going to make the same mistakes that Boston Dynamics has made. They can learn from all Boston Dynamics mistakes and integrate that into Hyundai, which makes sense. And it looks like Hyundai seems to be doing very well, even in the middle of a pandemic, worldwide pandemic. So they can afford the 925 million dollar price. So yeah, that's just more of the same. I'm just checking to make sure I'm not missing something. There's something I haven't said or good point to bring up. I think more of the same. I think Boston Dynamics is really hoping that Spot can be a source of revenue and for them. They're really pushing Spot really hard and trying to get people to take on Spot and use Spot and develop Spot and sell Spot with software. I think they're really more looking at Boston Dynamics saying, we want to sell Spot not to individual customers, we want to sell Spot to a business, and then they will develop Spot for a specific job or task, and then they will sell Spot and the software that they developed for that task to individual customers. If that makes sense. Yeah, Spot, Handle, Atlas. Really don't think Atlas has much of a market. I haven't seen Atlas at all being used commercially. You're seeing Spot more and more being used commercially. Handle, which is their inventory robot, this guy, that could be what Hyundai is looking at, taking that technology and trying to use it in the warehouse environment for supply chains and so on. But Boston Dynamics is still very much a research-oriented company. Like I said, so one of the new big things they're promoting is the arm they added to Spot to make it more of a service robot, which is interesting. I'm sure we could have a debate whether a wheeled robot like Snow or a four-legged robot like Spot is better in the service robot field. Like I said, Hyundai, most of the service robots being developed now are basically at a platform like Snow and like that service robot that Hyundai is developing for hotels and hospitals. Wheeled, not two-legged or four-legged. They call Atlas the Formula One of robots. Yes, it's very super cool. But like I said, I don't think there's much of a market for Atlas right now. Yeah, they're talking about how Handle is a warehouse robot, and I think Hyundai really likes it, really interested in that. The vision, the AI systems that Boston Dynamics has behind that robot. And then Spot. I think more of the same. They found a 92, but they didn't. I think Big Dog was 2005. So interesting, and the thing is that SoftBank acquired Boston Dynamics for, I reported 165 million in 2017, and now they're evaluated as valuation of 1.1 billion. There must be a lot going on behind the scenes that's not public information. That's a huge increase. There's got to be something going on at Boston Dynamics to account for that huge increase within what, 3 years, from 165 million to 1.5 billion. And you can see that SoftBank is reluctant to give totally up on Boston Dynamics because they still have a 20% interest in it. Yeah, they talk about the service robot environment is very competitive, hard market to get a footprint in. Totally agree with that. I think this is the same article. Google selling Boston Dynamics is a pretty typical move for them. They tend to jump in into the diving pool end of a pool, and then they kind of drown, and then they just kind of divest. So it's as of now, Boston Dynamics seems to be very happy. They think they have a better partner, a better controlling partner in Hyundai. Basically, the press release. They kind of go on and on and on about how there's basically a synergism between the two companies, and then how Spot is primed to take off in many different fields, many different areas. Hyundai is very interested in Boston Dynamics 3D vision manipulation and other expertise, and they have also their AI and robot interaction stuff that they're working on, human robot interaction, HRI. They're thinking they can work together and make both work better. Hyundai believes that robotics is becoming a huge, significant growth market in the future. And yeah, they definitely Hyundai likes the logistics and service robots field, and I think that Boston Dynamics can help them get in and develop that market. And warehouse supply chain stuff with PIC. And then Hyundai, like I said, Hyundai's definitely the exoskeletons for paraplegics since 2018. Then the service robot for hotels and hospitals. And they're talking about the robotics lab is developing future robots for commercial and industrial robots, so on. So it does seem to be a good fit for now. More of the same, I think. It's more talking about how the three major robots they have and how Hyundai definitely wants to get into robotics more and more. So Hyundai Robotics as a division, as a group in Hyundai, started in 2018. So this is more expanding of that division. And they think that robotics will account for 20% of future business. That's why they invested heavily in it. And they're talking about how Hyundai is going to do like $100 trillion investment in future mobility, air vehicles, robotics, last minute delivery robots, and so on. So similar to some of the things that Ford and some other companies are doing, Hyundai wants to have a so like Amazon, UPS. Think of all the delivery service. Instead of having a human deliver the package to your door, it will be a robot of some type, either Spot, four-legged robot, two-legged robot, or a wheeled robot will deliver your package to your door. At least that's what they're saying. That's what they mean by last mile delivery robot. Yeah, like I said, I've read a lot of articles. This Spot really seems to be what everybody's promoting now and pointing to as the revenue generator for Boston Dynamics. And like I said, so Hyundai's got their exoskeletons that they've been developed, so on, to help people for lifting and for strenuous work. Interesting, Hyundai is very automated, but they still think that there's workers do have a place in factories, warehouses, manufacturing centers. Let me just see where they go with that. I didn't know that Hyundai was into exoskeletons, but they are. Since what for 2 years now. More of the same. Definitely into robot arms. Definitely into automation. So that kind of makes sense. So, oh yeah. Oh, sorry. I lost. Okay, so I'm going to now make my transition into talking about Disney, some of the interesting things that's happening or I've heard from Disney. I've been doing some research on this. I'm not a patent attorney, so we're going to talk about patents. And so someday I need to just sit down with a patent attorney, talk more about patents and how patents work and how broad or narrow the scope patents are. But the reason why I say this is that Disney is working on a patent, a very, I mean, if you look at the patent, there's a lot of reading. They've got a lot in the patent. Basically, what they're working on is that they're patenting robot actors. Originally, I thought that was for, so if you go into Disney Park, see, the interesting thing is right now, Disney's struggling a little bit with their parks and because of the pandemic. I don't know if this is a response to the pandemic. I do know this patent's been worked on for like a year or two, so it's probably not a response to the pandemic. But they're talking about, so you have cosplayers, I call them cosplayers, but you have actors dressed up in Disney character costumes walking around their theme parks. So one of the things they're thinking about is instead of having a robot with AI, vision, cloud AI, and they would respond and act just like a person would to you as that character. So this is kind of their overview of the patent. They're talking about a humanoid robot. And then they're talking a lot about how the robot uses sensors, AI, and so on to be able to navigate, move, and function around humans in the physical world. So, like I said, your cosplayers at the parks, but also this could probably also be used in movies, in TV shows, like The Mandalorian, And Star Wars, this would be great for like their Star Wars shows. They could actually have real robots walking around. Excuse me. So this was early December when it started coming out, found out about it. So they've been working on, so they want to go from just what you consider like animatronics, which is a stationary robot that moves and functions and has a speaker. They will actually want a self-contained robot that actually can move around and interact with their environment using AI and so on. Yeah, robot characters for meet and greets. I don't know how soon this will happen, but I don't even know if they have a functioning robot yet. Be interesting to see what happens next year. Okay, so this is the patent itself. The patent is, excuse me. This is the patent itself. I'll probably put a link to this patent, maybe some of the articles that I have read about the patent and the robot actors. So this abstract right here, I've talked to a few people about this. This is a very general abstract, just saying a robot actor that is free roaming, untethered, 2 or more legs, hardware and software, AI controlled. So the reason why I bring this up is the video that Boston Dynamics just created is in a sense a robot actor. You have both their bipedal and spot and their wheeled robot acting and dancing in the music video. So I don't know, would you consider that a robot actor? I kind of do. So like I said, I'm not a patent attorney, so I'm not going to make any judgments as far as how narrow scope this patent is or how broad scope this patent is. But to me, the patent seems to be very general. It seems to be sort of dated. Now I know they've been working on this for about a year or two. It seems to me like the idea of using AI and sensors to autonomously navigate, communicate, talk to. I mean, that's AWS RoboMaker, that's Google Assist, that's Alexa, that's Atlas, Spot. A lot of your service robots like Snow use AI, Cloud AI to do the interactions between you and between human and themselves, like C3PO. I mean, if they're just patenting their version of C3PO in a very narrow patent, that makes sense. But I mean, if you read this, it's very extensive. So I'm a little confused exactly what the patent purpose is. Talk about VR. It's so general and so broad, and so there's so much to this patent. But again, most of the patent itself is everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it cloud AI. Everybody's using sensors like LiDAR and distance sensors to have autonomous robots move around in an area. A lot of people are using ROS. It doesn't talk about using ROS, but they probably are using some version of ROS or some proprietary system. Don't know. So I kind of just bring this up as an interesting point of discussion about this robot actor and what it means for the future. I I don't see this being something that's. I mean, I was really surprised when Disney opened up the Star Wars lands that they didn't have service robots customized like R2D2 driving around. That's pretty simple, straightforward technology. C3PO would be a little more involved. But Atlas, basically, maybe Disney should have bought a controlling interest in Boston Dynamics and then took Atlas and dressed Atlas up as your favorite Star Wars robots and have it walking around the theme park. But that's just me. They're doing a lot of the stuff internal in-house. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is very general, and lots of people are doing a lot of this stuff. So I'm not sure the philosophy, the rationale behind the patent. But they're, as far as I know, they're continuing with it. I don't know if it's. I think it's still pending. But I'll leave a link in the description, and if you have some ideas or thoughts about the patent and what it means, I'm just kind of clueless right now. But like I said, reason why I bring this up is because it's interesting how you've got a music video with robot actors in it by Boston Dynamics that's like the hottest thing on the internet. That's got millions, I think tens of millions of views now, and it's a robot actor. So I'm not sure what all that means. So I'll leave that up to maybe somebody with a little more expertise or knowledge in Disney or Boston Dynamics or Hyundai or whatever to comment on. But this this patent is really long. Tons of information. But like I said, it's so basic. The information is so basic to humanoid robots, how humanoid robots move and act, and talks about balancing and all kinds of stuff that people have been working on for years. So it's just very interesting. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand the rationale behind the patent. You're patenting a very specific humanoid robot with certain traits and software that all proprietary Disney stuff. Okay, but this is so general. Like I said, I'm not a patent attorney. I don't know how broad or general a patent can be and be applied. But there's so many people doing research and development in this area that they've got to be intentionally or unintentionally overlapping on everybody. You talk about SolidWorks and CAD models and mesh models and character models, and I'm like, that's Blender and all the kinds of stuff being used by people to create their own. I mean, the technology now is people can create their own cartoons in CGI and through gaming software and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. I could ramble on and on about this, so I'll kind of cut it off there. So this is kind of my maybe not end of the year robot news, but definitely one of my last robot news for the year. I thought these were two very interesting topics to bring up and discussion points. The controlling cell of Boston Dynamics by SoftBank to Hyundai, and Disney working on a patent for robot actors. And I think they're sort of interesting how they're kind of related, but that's just maybe me. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, suggestions, or questions, just leave a comment at the video. I'll try to answer them. Or maybe if you have some insider ideas about what's going on with both topics, feel really like comment and we can discuss it. Or maybe I can bring it up in my next robot news. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you again. And have a good new year, and probably see you next year. Bye.